And this is the sad story or happy story about everything that happened to me in my last evaluation. Being a nervous person and a person with many stress. You remember that poster that I made for my exam when I was working in our coffee plantation? Well, I didn't use it because I made that triangle one. That was easier for me to carry and use the day of my last evaluation. For months I was preparing for that exam, and even when I was working in a coffee plantation, I was preparing all those materials, waiting for the day that I would be called to go to my exam to simulate a class for intermediate level students in English. And finally, they called me to go. I was traveling to the university that is 2 hours far from my house. I was checking if I hadn't forgotten anything. And that was the school where I started studying at the age of 6 years, I think. I remember that it scared me walk to my house alone because I thought it was so far. But the school was not like that because they built it again. While I was traveling, I tried to see the beautiful views, to not get stressed and anxious and nervous about my exam, which was until 6 p.m. in the afternoon or the evening. And we had to travel in the morning to avoid delays on the way or something like that.
That's pretty good.
And I was so worried because I still don't know all the irregular verbs in English. And because it was a simulated class, the real students were not going to be there.
What?
We had to pretend that the students were there while some teachers see if I'm doing my class well or not, When we arrived, my father took me to see the boarding school where he studied when he was young to distract me a little and not get so nervous. But now it's not longer a boarding school. There are people renting the place, there are shops and things like that. My father was telling me that every morning they had to pray and do some routines because it was a Catholic school. But in the end, my father dropped out the school. He quit the school because he says he missed his family and things like that. So my father told us to not waste any opportunity in life. He said there's no need to be afraid of things because in the end, we all are human and that we should only do the best we can in anything. And those words inspired me a lot because I always try to do things perfect, which is bad because it causes me stress and anxiety. And thanks to that, I was calmer and more relaxed. And finally, we were getting close to the university, and my heart was beating so fast again. My father, I think, already knew how nervous I was, and because we had to wait another hour to 6 p.m., my father told me, let's see and wait somewhere else. See trees like far from the university, So that made me feel less stressed.
That's pretty good.
Then we found a river. The sound of the water was very relaxing, while we talked about other things with my father and my older brother. And finally, it was time. I was fixing my uniform, my materials, my papers, and we arrived at the university. I had a classmate who had to enter first, and while I was waiting my turn, I was trembling, shaking, I don't know how to say, but I felt that it was just the emotion about what was going to happen or something like that. And I remember some tips on YouTube, like the phrase someone said, let's not think about the bad things could happen, it's better to think in everything good that can happen, or something like that. My father had to buy me a watch to control my time well. I was also wearing my younger brother's shoes that were a bit big for me because my shoes were dirty. And finally it was my turn, and when I walked in, I'm just kidding. They told me to not stress and not to get nervous, and I did my class the best I could. Even though I had some mistakes, they started congratulating me and they told me some advices and things like that. And they told me that I had a very high score. Then I was telling everything to my father and he was also happy for me. And those were the materials I used. I wanted to make my class with the idea that if it were a real class, the students would not feel stressed while learning English. Those shoes were of my younger brother. They were a little too big for me because he is taller than me. But I hope no one noticed that the shoes were big for me. That's all. I hope you like this video, and if you are a nervous person like me, I want you to know that you can overcome your fears. You don't need to be afraid because you just need to do the best you can. Thank you. Bye.